Today in the V-Strom garage, we're now working on V-Stroms. We're working on a Honda XR650L. I picked it up, it has some problems. I'm thinking it's a valve seat, but we're going to tear it down and go through it and see what we can find. Let's see if I can get it started up and let you listen to it. Hopefully there's enough gas in the carburetor. So that's our ticking noise we got. The smoke's from cleaning off the motor. Yeah, so that's what we got to work with, and yeah, so we'll go ahead and start tearing that puppy down. Yeah, so the first thing we'll probably do is get the exhaust, the header off, and we'll go ahead and we'll pull the carburetor. We'll get that out of the way, and we'll go ahead and pull the spark plugs. We'll set our timing to top dead center of the compression stroke. And then we'll go ahead and remove our cam cover on the top. And yeah, that'll be our first little project. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and take this header pipe off the engine here. 12 millimeter. If you got nuts that are coming off hard, you can't turn by hand, make sure you run a dye over the threads and clean them up before you put everything back on. Alright, do the other side. Alright, so I got these two little split half retainers here. Pull those off. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and tap the header out. I just loosened these two bolts on the silencer back here. So I should be able to just tap this forward and out. And just like that, we're out. Alright, let's go ahead and get this carb off here. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and pull this choke out of there. So 14 millimeter wrench. Loosen that up. Trying to get it so you guys can see this. There it goes. It'll stick you down there. We'll clean all that stuff up. Alright, clamps off. Sorry for blocking all the light. Get the clamp to the air box I'm probably going to loosen up the two 10 millimeters on top of the air box so it'll slide back a little bit. Also, alright, two 10 millimeters. Yeah, there's another 10 millimeter where the wire runs down by the exhaust header. Of course, there's a wire running right next to it, so it's a little more difficult to get out. Alright, so those 3 bolts are out. Air box is fairly loose. So let's go ahead and pull our carburetor. So we're going to see which side this is going to come out on. So I haven't undone the throttle cables off, but I'm going to see if I can leave them on. Worst come to worst, I'll pop them off real quick. And we try the other side. Take these 10 millimeter nuts, loosen those bad boys up. Okay. And set that thing down, we'll pop it out of there. What I like to use is a little 90-degree scribe. Use one of these. So, like that. Alright, let's see if we can get this maybe freed up and out of there now. Let's clamp off. I think we still have one little hose on the side over there. Alright. That baby is off. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and take this intake boot. I'm going to crack these 3 Allen bolts, get those loosened up. That way if I have to take it off later, make it a lot easier. 5 millimeter. Yeah, they're 5 millimeter. Again, make sure that Allen sockets in there are good because these things will strip out easy. Break these loose. The bottom one, you may need a wobbly Allen wrench. It's just loose. See if we can get in on that one. think we're gonna have to get a wobbly one. Yeah, I'd rather not chance it. I'm using my little 1/4" ratchet and the wobbly. Alright, all broke loose. That's good enough for now. So we got two 12mm and a 14mm. So we'll get all those loosened up real quick. If they start turning from the other side, they'll have to get another wrench to hold those. So we got nuts on this side. Right. Let it pull out just like that. We're just going to put this back on here, put the nuts back on. Wait, I'm not going to lose it. I already removed the spark plug. So next thing I'm doing, we'll go ahead and set the timing on top dead center of the compression stroke. Valve adjuster screws loosened up here, so pop those out. Oh. Alright. And before I decided to take the head off, I did check valve clearances and made sure everything was right. So 17mm socket to turn it counterclockwise. Okay, so our intakes just went up. So that means we're going to be on the compression strokes. Now we're going to start looking for a T-mark in here. On this particular flywheel, the T is actually at an angle. It's not straight up, so it's a little weird. Okay, right there. We're on the T on the timing marks. Should be able to grab the valves and they should move just a little bit, which they do. Okay, so we know our timing's set. Now we can go ahead and we can pull the cam cover off. Alright, so before we pull all the bolts off the head, we're going to take this oil pipe. We got to remove that and get that out of the way. And then we'll go ahead and start the removal. Get this oil pipe off. I'm just going to take this one off first. Got this one up here. And these are 8mm here. These are 12. Down here. Right. So you're definitely going to want to replace these crush washers after you take this off. Cheap insurance. Yeah, if you could lift this straight up, you wouldn't have to take this whole pipe off, but the head has to slide backwards. So if you're doing this on the bike, you're definitely going to have to take the whole pipe off. You need a little wrench to break that one loose. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and put these bolts back into their place where we took them off at. Keep these washers on here. Okay, now we can get the cam cover off. Okay, I'll continue to get all these bolts off from here. Get everything broken loose. This one bolt right here, you can't get a socket wrench on there, but this got on there pretty good. I think it's only supposed to be torqued to 17 foot-pounds or something like that. So it's not on there too tight. We got all the bolts all loosened up here. Now I'm going to tap on this and just break this loose a little bit, make it easier to get some of these bolts off. Again, there's locator pins on this thing, so we really got to tap it up like that. There we go. Oop. A little bit of oil coming out there. Alright, now continue taking these bolts out. Lay them in order. I always take, when I'm laying out bolts, whatever I'm taking off, I always start with the upper left bolt and then go clockwise around. So when I lay all the bolts out, I know exactly where they go back in at. This middle bolt we won't be able to take off until we get the cam cover off. I've never done this with the engine in the bike. Every time I used to rebuild these things, I would always pull the motor. I know it's possible, it's just a matter of finagling it. I may have to pull that intake boot, we'll find out. Yeah, I think that intake boot is gonna have to come off. It'll be easier if we get this bolt out of here. See if we got it over far enough yet. Get that out. Aha. Yeah, we'll get somewhere. A little off there. Alright. There's our rockers. Alright, so we'll kind of look through that and see if we see anything in there. So the cam timing is correct. After much trying to figure out what screwdriver to get down in there, I ended up with this big one with a fat head on there to get the cam chain tensioner back far enough to get the holder tool on there. So now we can go ahead and pull the cam. After looking at this cam, looks like somebody may have been here prior. So get to focus. Other thing I need to check out is rockers there. They look, to me they look worn. I'm gonna have to check those out real good. Looking over this a little more, it's like I went to loosen this cam sprocket bolt up and it just went, it was like super, not like super loose, but it wasn't tightened down to proper spec on that. So somebody's definitely been in here messing with something that didn't know what they were doing. So there's a lot of different variables I'm going to have to check out. So we'll go ahead and get this cam out of here. So we got the bolt off from top dead center, turned to 1 full revolution. So it's top dead center on the exhaust stroke now. So we can go ahead and take the other cam sprocket bolt off. Yeah, see how tight this one is? That one's better. I believe those are torqued at 20 foot-pounds. Alright, should be up. Not sure why it's not coming off. Alright, anyways, let's go ahead and pull the cam out. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to tie a zip tie onto the cam chain sprocket, so I don't have to fish it out. I can get it out pretty quick with a little magnet, but this will make it a little easier. Cam should just pop out of there now. Yeah. There could be some possible cam wear on this. Well, we'll dig into it a little deeper here a little bit. The bearing came off. So what I am going to do, I'm going to hold this up and turn the crank a full revolution. That way I know it's back where we started at as far as being on top dead center of the compression stroke, which at this point probably doesn't matter, but I'm going to do it anyways. Okay. So we're there. So they can rest there. Alright, so next thing we'll do, yeah, they took the decompression mechanism off from that cam, but they left the plunger still in the engine, which is not supposed to do that. Alright, we'll address that in just a little bit. Alright, so we're going to loosen up all the head bolts now. Hand loose. Already loosened up these little 2/8 nuts there. So all the bolts are out. And we'll give the head a little tappy and see if we can get this bad boy off. That's going to look pretty good. Just got to pull it straight up because we got the locating pins on there again. Dowel pins, whatever you want to call them. Alright, let's see what's behind door number 1 here. Alright. Yeah, we got the pistons, doesn't have too much carbon on it. Just wonder if somebody's been into it recently before I bought it. They didn't know what they were doing. Yeah, we're gonna find out. You can see the valves there. Alright, so it's time for teardown. Alright, so we're cleaning up the head a little bit. Getting all the oil out of here. I'm not sure exactly what they did to this thing. The oil almost smells like gear oil. It's almost got like a tacky feeling to it. Kind of hard to tell, but yeah, the piston in the bike, it looks like it's almost brand new. Still a lot of cross hatching in the bore, so I'm thinking somebody, either the guy I bought it from or the guy he bought it from, put it all back together. But the cam lobes are definitely worn. You can actually feel grooves in them. So that definitely has to be replaced. It looks like all the rockers are going to need to be replaced. Haven't got to the valves yet. I was hoping to see maybe it was just a valve seat, but you know, I'll go and pull the exhaust valves out and take a peek at them. But yeah. And for the chain tensioner, when I was taking that out, I don't have the factory service manual, so I was going off from a different one. And I didn't realize you gotta loosen this bolt, take this bolt off first, inside of there that holds the tensioner, before you put the holding tool in there. Alright. Pull out the old exhaust gaskets. It's hard to believe if somebody did put the new piston in there. Doesn't look like they put new exhaust gaskets or anything in here. They didn't clean up the head or nothing. like that. Yeah, we get all that stuff cleaned up. Not sure where this little passageway goes right there, but there's like tons of dirt in there. Look at that. Hopefully it doesn't go anywhere important. But if it does, it would explain why it is the way it is. Alright, so we got all that stuff cleaned out. I think that hole actually just went to the outside of the spark plug, the outside casing, so it's not a big deal. So let's go ahead and pull one of these exhaust valves off. So taking it off, I usually just do it this way and of course you're going to have the spring compressor to put it back on. There you go. The two keepers. You got your valve seal up here. Valve definitely needs to be lapped. I'm not seeing any movement in that valve seat. So these valve seats may be good. But regardless, we'll lap these valves and get them cleaned up and double check them. Alright, get this valve out here. There we go. There. Definitely some carbon on there, but not too bad. Again, the valve seat's looking pretty good. Alright, so we've already went through the head. We've cleaned up our exhaust ports, intake ports. We lapped the valves. So we're going to put the last valve in now. So we did determine it was not a valve seat. The cam and the cam rockers are worn out. So we got those on the way. I got some parts in today. I got the new valve stem seals and a couple other things, but not enough to put everything back together. So yeah, we'll put this last valve in. First thing, use some assembly lube, some Molly. I see a lot of people putting this stuff in on some of the videos dry. Don't put these things in dry. That's the last thing you want when you first start your motor up, is have metal on metal. don't push it real hard through the valve stem seal. Just kind of work it a little bit and push gently. You don't want to rip that seal. All right. Like I said, I put oil on everything, even the springs. These springs on this motor, you notice the windings are a little tighter on one end than the other. The tighter part goes to the down. Same thing with the bigger spring. Alright, so we'll put our valve retainer on there. Get our keepers. Little keepers. Careful, those things will fly. So we'll get those kind of in a position. Then we'll get our valve spring compressor. There's all different kinds. You can get the overhead type that go up here. It's a lot easier if you're working by yourself. This works. Luckily I got a buddy here today to help me out. I know you can't really see that, but you got to get the little keepers in the little slot, fat side up. Sometimes when you compress these springs, they kind of go a little cattywampus, so you might have to take it back off and get it recentered. There we go. Yeah, it doesn't help having big old sausages for fingers either. So you don't want to compress a spring too far, but you want to make sure you got it enough down too, otherwise it won't get in that groove. Of course, this is the hardest one. Never fails, right? As soon as you turn on the camera, nothing goes right. Kill him. Alright, so now they're down in there. So I'm going to have to hold that, then slowly alright. So all four of them in there, so the next thing you got to do is really make sure that they're in there. So what we're going to do, let me find another hammer. This one should be fine. So what you're going to want to do is make sure you're not resting on this, but resting on the top part. Normally get a smaller plastic hammer. This should be fine though. And just tap them a few times and make sure the keepers don't pop out. And those will seat those keepers in there good. So those are not moving. Alright, so we've got our parts in. Getting our cylinder head gasket on here. Make sure our valve guide's in this little slot. This valve guide moves. So we just gotta be careful and slide that on there, get the cam chain up to the cylinder head. Those down to the locator pins, just kind of wiggle it down until it sits firmly. Double check this side. At least I guess as far as it's gonna go. Alright, so next thing we'll do is we'll get our head bolts in there. On the head bolts, you gotta put oil on the threads and on the top of the washer where the head of the bolt is. Make sure you oil that up a little bit before you put them in. Alright, so we've got our cylinder head bolts in there. Now we're going to go ahead and torque everything down. So these get torqued to 26 foot-pounds. I'm just going to kind of snug these up just a little bit. Then go full torque. Okay, we'll go full torque now. 26 foot-pounds. Alright, we're going to check them one more time. Okay, everything's at 26. And the last thing we're going to do is torque these two little cap nuts here. There's no way to get you're not going to get a torque wrench in there. These are about 9 foot-pounds, which isn't that much. Good to me. Feels like 9. Alright, so we'll go ahead and we'll get everything lubed up in here and get the cam, the cam chain tension and everything set up and get that part done. Alright, so we've got the cam chain tensioner ball. We're going to get this old O-ring off here and get the new one on. That. So we get a lot of engine oil on all these pieces. So there's a little tab on this spring right here, and it kind of sets in the back of the cylinder head thing, so we got to get that down in there. Alright, with a little finagling, basically I just got that started down in there. Use this thing to hold the little tensioner part, because it goes over the cam guide. If it's over it, it can't go all the way back. So you have to get it down in there. Just wedge the screwdriver in between the guide and this thing, and then just kind of pull this up and got that on there. So now this thing, it only turns one way. So you gotta kind of pop that in there like that, then line up the hole. Which is basically even with the head there. There you go. Yeah, if it won't turn in by hand, it ain't right. That's in there, a little decompression stop is there. So now we can install the cam sprocket. Cam sprocket. Cam chain. Don't hit this. Alright, so we can cut this. Actually looks right about on. Alright, so we'll grab our new cam assembly with the decompression mechanism. Get the cams turned the correct way, like that. Now the screw holes in the cam, make sure those, spray some brake parts cleaner and get those, make sure there's no oil in those, because when you put your Loctite on those cap nuts or Allen bolts, you don't want oil in there, otherwise it's not going to stick. See, you get this off. There you go. Okay. So that's all lined up. So now we'll go ahead and get our cap screws, get our Loctite on there. We'll torque those down. I believe those are 15 foot-pounds. Alright, so we're going to get a little bit of a Loctite on here. Doesn't need a ton. So we'll get our first one started. I've double checked our timing marks on the other side. Alright, so the hard part is not to get the engine to turn while you do this. So, we'll get it snugged. Oops. Tension and hold removed again. Okay, just pop that just like that. Okay, well, let's go ahead and turn that and get that other bolt going here. Thread locker. Alright, so we're going to have to hold the crank on the other side. So I'm going to turn it back to top dead center. Your timing marks are still on. Let's see if I can do this by holding the crank on the other side. Okay, 15. That's actually inch pounds, so it's 176 inch pounds. Okay, so those are good. Okay, now we can go ahead and do this again. Get all this lined back up. That little sucker popped out on me. And after a while of not doing this, it's probably been 22 years since I've rebuilt this particular motor. Not on this bike, but in general. Forget a few things. Alright, so now I just take a little tension off here, pop that off. There. Tensioner's back on. Timing marks look correct. Alright. So now the next thing we do is put our new rockers and sub-rockers in the head cover. Alright, so we'll start getting some of the old rockers out of the head. So I got these cracked loose. Alright, so take these off. We've got a sealing washer out here, and in between these rockers there's some little wave washers. We've got to pay attention when they come out. Nice. Yeah, it's probably hard to tell on the camera, but you can see how worn out that is. I don't know. Right. And these do go in a certain order, so you got to be mindful of which one goes where. I guess I was mistaken on this. The actual rockers do not have the wave washers. The sub rockers have the wave washers on those. Here, I'll try to zoom in and show you how worn out this thing is. Not sure if I'll get in that tight or not. Hopefully you guys can see how badly worn out those were. So it's definitely our source of the ticking. Get the new rockers set in there. Got our new sealing washers on here. Before we push that all the way in, we're going to want to put a little blue Loctite on the first couple threads there. Second rocker in there. Get that snugged up here. We'll do a final torque on it later. Alright. Alright, so the main rockers are in. Now we'll do the sub rockers. Take the last sub rocker off here. This is the exhaust side. These things are pretty tight. They got some Loctite on them. And make sure you clean all the threads out when you take these off. There's a lot of Loctite on them. So we got the shaft, got the sub rocker, and then there's a wave washer on the inside of this bolt. There's the old one. And that's the little wave washer. Take the old sealing washer off. Clean this up good so the brake part's clear. I can either kind of hit those either with a wire brush. I've just been using a little pick, cleaning all these little get all that stuff out of there. Alright, the threads are cleaned up. We got a new sealing washer on there. Got our new sub rocker. This is labeled Part B, and this would be the right exhaust. So yeah, I'm gonna dip this. I got a little bit of oil over here. Just kind of run that through there a little bit. I'm just gonna put a little assembly lube on there too. Again, don't get the oil on the threads, otherwise you're locking, the thread locker is not going to work. Alright. I'm just going to put a little bit of blue Loctite on there. So this side, the wave washer goes first. You gotta kind of get that set in there. Pull it back without it falling out. Get it started in there, double check the washers in there. Looks good. Get it snugged up a little bit. We'll torque it down, and the exhaust sub rockers are at 16 foot-pounds. The intake sub rockers are 20 foot-pounds. Alright, so over new rockers are in. These are the sub rockers, these are the rockers. This is what rides on the cam. As you can see, those don't look anything like the old ones. You can see that. Alright, so next thing I do is I'll get all these adjuster screws out of the old rockers, get them put in, and we'll get the head cover on. Alright, it's time to put the head cover on. We got our new head cover gasket on there. We got our dowel pins on either side. I'm gonna get that. Yeah, make sure you got this long bolt that goes in here. If you put this all the way on, you're not going to get this bolt on. Alright, so now it's just a matter of putting all these bolts on here. We'll have to adjust all the valves once we get everything torqued down. So we're going to go ahead and get our intake boot on here. Alright, I'll finish this up. We'll find the torque settings and we'll get that going. I'm doing these at 7 foot-pounds. I couldn't find the spec for it in the book, but so I'm just going off the generic for a 6mm bolt. It's usually about 7 foot-pounds. Alright, so we're getting this carburetor back on here. I took loose the rear brake reservoir, tuck that out of the way, come in this way with it. There we go. This rear boot on. Alright, that clamps on. Alright, so we just hook up our cables. This is our pull cable. And then our pull cable's got to pull it. Alright, so we'll get those tightened up. Looks good. Alright, so the carburetor's on. Now we're getting our oil pipe on. We've got our new crush washers on here. So we'll get this torqued down. These nuts are 13 foot-pounds. Okay. Usually just do these at 7. The one in here you're not going to be able to get a torque wrench on. Probably can't see it from that angle, but so our oil pipe's on, carburetor's on, those are on. Now I'm going to drain the oil, take the skid plate off, and yeah, we'll go from there. Alright, so we got the oil changed. Yeah, all this is torqued down. We got our engine hanger plate, bolts, all that's torqued down. I believe that was 19 foot-pounds and 36, I believe, on the bigger bolt. I got the new exhaust gaskets in the head. Now we'll go ahead and put our exhaust back on. Probably be a heck of a lot easier if I just took the silencer off. Alright, so that's in. Alright, so the correct way is the inside ones go on first, and then the outside one. They just overlap each other. You kind of reverse, one goes one way and one goes the other way. Alright, so we're going to snug these down before we torque them. We're going to kind of do it evenly too. I believe these are 13 foot-pounds on these. That side is torqued. Alright, we'll get the other side and we'll be done with the exhaust. I think everything's buttoned up on this thing now. We'll double check everything. It looks good. Got the gas tank on, got the fuel on. Yep, we'll see what happens. So we'll go ahead and we'll check our oil level, add our oil, and yeah, I think we might better take this baby out for a little spin, see how it does. Right on. All right, well, we took it for a little spin up the road, put a couple miles on it. Everything seems to be pretty good. I do have a little issue with the float bowl gasket on the carburetor. I'm just going to order a new one of those, pop it in. But yeah, runs great, no ticking, and yeah, we'll keep you updated.